Hello, I'm George Lowe, Senior Engineering Geologist Specialist and the Central Valley Regional Water Quality Control Board's Mines Program Manager. This is the Mines Program Update for 2023. Our board developed its formal Mines Program about 10 years ago. The program's goal is to identify and mitigate water quality impacts at mine sites within the Central Valley region. Today, board staff regulate and or track 108 mine sites with known or potential water quality impacts within the region. These mines largely consist of historical copper, gold, and mercury mines, some of which haven't operated for decades and many haven't operated for more than a century. Because of its limited number of designated staff, currently about 4.5 positions, the Mines program is organized differently than most of the board's programs. Here, core staff serve as region-wide mining experts and are responsible for developing site-specific regulatory strategies, overseeing execution of mine remediation activities, and pursuing complex enforcement actions. Program staff rely on the expertise of planning and permitting staff in our NPDES, stormwater, basin planning, water quality certifications, Non-15, and Title 27 programs to develop and issue relevant permits to facilitate work on mine-related projects when these permits are required. Initiating work at mine sites often requires staff to pursue lengthy enforcement or legal actions in order to identify and compel responsible parties to investigate and mitigate the harmful effects of mining waste, generally to surface waters and the aquatic organisms that rely on them. These efforts often require program staff to closely coordinate with the state water boards, offices of enforcement and chief counsel, and at times the Attorney General's office. Program staff also work closely with the U.S. EPA and the Department of Toxic Substance Control in the investigation, remedy, selection, and cleanup of 5 special status mine sites within our region. These include the Iron Mountain, Argonaut Lava Cap, New Idria, and Sulphur Bank mercury mines. At these sites, activities are conducted under CERCLA or Superfund. Superfund is a rigorous federal regulatory framework that in part provides funding and authority for the U.S. EPA to pursue cleanup efforts at sites that lack a viable responsible party but pose a heightened threat to human health and the environment. Work on abandoned mine sites is challenging, generally requiring a team of staff with expertise in contracting, environmental science, geology, hydrogeology, engineering, and geochemistry. Sites are often located in steep, remote areas with no access to electricity. These conditions often require discharge to design remedial solutions that prevent precipitation, overland flow, and other surface waters from contacting mine waste. Control water pressure within the mine to reduce conditions that cause acid rock drainage, and incorporate passive biological treatment systems to neutralize pH and further reduce concentrations of heavy metals in the discharge. Many of these challenges exist at the Walker Mine in Plumas County. It was initially developed in the early 1900s and ceased operation in the early 1940s, at the time being the largest copper mine in California. In June of this year, after almost 30 years of the Central Valley Water Board maintaining the Walker Mine site to protect waters of the state, and almost a decade of litigation, the board successfully transferred the mine site to Atlantic Ridgefield Company, who will take over investigation and cleanup activities. This is an incredible success story for the Mines program, the board, and our mission due to the hard work and determination of our staff. I want to thank Jeff Huggins, an engineer in our Rancho office, and Dave Koob, a senior attorney with the Office of Chief Counsel, who along with the AG's office were instrumental in making this happen. Program staff have accomplished a lot this past year, but are already starting to work on fiscal year 23-24 priority projects where we'll continue to identify, characterize, and prioritize mines throughout the Central Valley region using a recently developed matrix. We'll review financial assurance mechanisms for mining waste management units at relevant mine sites and work with dischargers to update those mechanisms where appropriate. And we'll implement the program's new racial equity goals. In doing so, program staff will prioritize mine cleanup or oversight in consideration of threats to water quality and disproportionate environmental burdens faced by disadvantaged communities and tribes. For each mine project selected for the racial equity goal in the program's fiscal year 23-24 work plan, staff will develop individual action plans to better address the unique and often complex site characteristics causing or contributing to water quality impairments. These plans will be developed and implemented through enhanced public outreach and tribal engagement, Each project will also include a succinct summary that describes opportunities for public participation and provides regular updates regarding project progress. At the Iron Mountain Mine Superfund site, Reading staff will finish development of a three-dimensional mixing model of Keswick Reservoir to assist in assessing the extent of impacts from Spring Creek debris dam discharges and develop a long-term strategy to protect water quality and fisheries in the Keswick Reservoir and the Sacramento River. We'll also support the US EPA in its work towards a final remedy and collaborate on an updated memorandum of understanding that identifies operational conditions to minimize threats to water quality. At the Sulphur Bank Mercury Mine Superfund site, Rancho staff will work with EPA, various agencies, tribal governments, and stakeholders to identify and select protective remedies to address the mercury flux into Clear Lake from the mine site. At Walker Mine, Rancho staff will continue to transition site work to ARCO and oversee its investigation, characterization, and remedial design activities. At the Rising Star Mine, staff will assess performance of recent site hardening projects, implement long-term solutions for mine pool management, and begin preparations to transition long-term stewardship of the Lyondell Environmental Custodial Trust. EPA funding and support. In fiscal year 21-22, staff requested EPA assistance with several mines within the Central Valley region. EPA has recommended the next steps for Afterthought Mine, Copperopolis, and Mount Diablo Mercury Mine. In fiscal year 23-24, staff will work with EPA to further explore available funding, preliminary work, and potential project alternatives at these sites. There's also a proposal to reopen the Idaho-Maryland mine. Here, staff will need to engage with project proponents, the county, and interested parties. Consistent with strategic plan objectives, we'll gain a good understanding of proposed project and interested party perspectives, and, if project moves forward, ensure clear communication of board requirements and efficient application of board resources and permitting mechanisms. And finally, the Afterthought Mine. The US EPA has completed their initial assessment of the Afterthought Mine and downstream smelt area. We are currently in talks with the Department of Toxic Substance Control and the US EPA to explore next steps, including potential funding and remediation pathways that will mitigate discharges to Little Cow Creek and lead to a delisting of the impaired water body, which is solely due to the mine-related discharges. That concludes the 2023 Mining Program Update. Thank you for your interest in the Central Valley Water Board's mining program.